What's up, everyone? It's an Side here, and today I'm going to be doing a battle of the blades comparing the Spyderco Sage 5 Lightweight to the Spyderco Para 3 Lightweight. And these are two models that I believe came out in 2019, and they came out very close to each other, I think just within a couple of months. And these were always a big comparison and question because a lot of times when people got the Sage 5 Lightweight, they were kind of upset because it has FRN scales, but it really isn't that much lighter than the regular one with those carbon fiber G10 laminate scales. And so I feel like that kind of thought in their head maybe created a little bit of bias when comparing these two knives. But personally for me, there isn't really any bias there if you saw my review of the Sage 5 Lightweight. So let's get into this video. And I just want to say that I have kind of changed up the way my Battle of the Blades format has worked. Basically, I didn't really like my old one because I had tons of categories, and then the categories that weren't as big would kind of hurt the categories that were very big. Like, for one, I had ease of disassembly, which I think is important, but when that is worth the same amount as the blade, when you factor in the blade geometry, the blade steel, the blade finish, the blade shape, all that kind of stuff, it just kind of made the balancing of it unfair. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over through this like I'm doing a review and just compare these knives with the categories that I use. And basically at the end, when I judge what categories won the more, or what knives won the more important categories, I will pick a winner. So comparing these two knives, just overall size, they both have 3-inch blades. The Para 3 is slightly bigger in the overall length dimension with a 7.3-inch overall length, while the Sage 5 only has a 7.1-inch overall length. And then the weight difference, the Para 3 is 2.4 ounces and the Sage 5 Lightweight is 2.7 ounces. So as you can probably tell here, I did mod out this Para 3. The reason I did the acid etch was because I scratched up the blade on a sharpening stone. And the reason I added this purple, or is that blue? I don't really know. This purple titanium hardware, and then I took a ceramic rod and basically knocked down all the inside of these plastic scales because it was sharp, and that will come up later when I talk about the ergos of these two knives. But first, let's talk about the looks. So basically just the base variant with the satin blade and the black handle. That's what I got for both of these knives, and I don't really like the look of that all that much. It's not that I dislike it, it's just a little bit boring, so it'll be a tie for that. Just the look of the overall lines of these two, I feel like the Sage 5 looks more like a normal knife because the Spyderco with this huge thumb ramp just looks a little bit odd, but I'm not going to pick a winner for looks because it's really just your personal opinion. So let's move on to the blade, and let's get a quick thickness behind the edge measurement. I'm just going to do one measurement because I don't want to waste everyone's time here, but I feel like it still is pretty important. So I'm getting, okay, so it just kind of slipped off there, but you hopefully saw it. It was 21.5 thousandths on the Para 3 Lightweight, and I have used this knife and sharpened it a lot. And then this one is very thin at like 16 thousandths behind the edge on the Sage 5 Lightweight. So that is a definite plus for me when it comes to the blade. You know what, I'll get a quick stock thickness measurement just so it's about 116 thousandths. Yeah, I think that's right. And then this one is 140 thousandths. So this Para 3 is definitely a lot thicker in the stock. And I'm not saying that affects how thin it is behind the edge, but what I am saying is that Spyderco tends to grind their knives thinner when they have a thinner stock, just because they probably use similar machines, and so they all probably grind their knives the same. So I am happy that the Sage 5 Lightweight is a lot thinner behind the edge. Keep in mind that the blade on the Sage 5 Lightweight is S30V, and the blade on the Para 3 Lightweight is BD1N. And truthfully, these steels perform very similar. Just comparing the edge retention, S30V probably is better. I think that BD1N is more corrosion resistant because you'll see that steel used on a lot of kitchen knives. But at the end of the day, for EDC purposes, I truthfully can't tell a difference between these two knives. This S30V came with a burnt edge from the factory, which I assume this one did too. It's just I didn't really get into sharpening that much when I was starting out when I got this knife about a year ago. But I'm still noticing some edge damage in basic use with like cardboard, and that's just kind of a thing with Spyderco that is a little bit frustrating. Just comparing S30V to BD1N, I'm going to call it a tie. Both of them are satin finish blades, which I am fine with. Yes, I do prefer a stone wash, but it's never a negative to have a satin. Just comparing the blade shape, I like this Sage 5, just the leaf shape a little bit more. They're both very similar, but I just want to give the slight edge, no pun intended, to the Sage 5 Lightweight, just because it's got that little slight bit of belly there and that really long flat, and I just feel like that works very well for me and just the things I do. And this one, it still is a very good blade shape. It just has a little bit more gradual belly over time, and then has a little bit of flat up there and a little bit of flat down here. So both very solid blade shapes, but overall for the blade, due to that thinness behind the edge of the Sage 5, it just cuts better, and so I'm gonna give the win to that. Next one, for the fitment, the finish, and the lockup. For the fitment, this is where it gets a little bit bad for the Para 3 Lightweight. So what they did here is they really tried to knock down every single gram that they possibly could. As you can see, this this compression lock here is literally, I don't think many people can see that all that well, but it's just one piece of metal, and it's just one small kind of like sliver of metal. It's the exact same construction that the copper PM2 has, if you know that, but other than that, there are no internal liners, and it's just plastic on it in there. And so what it does is it makes the balance point kind of blade heavy. Balance point is never a make or break thing for me, just some people might want to keep that in mind. But they only used one washer for the pivot of this Para 3 Lightweight, and that is just very questioning, because so many, I've maybe seen like one centered Para 3 Lightweight blade. Like almost every, I'd say 98% of the Para 3s Para 3 Lightweights that I see are off-centered, favoring the clip side, and there's really not much that you can do about it. Truthfully, centering is never a make or break thing for me, so I haven't really tried to do all the things that you can adjust it, but I've seen people try and do that and then fail. For the Sage 5 Lightweight, we have two washers, we are centered, we have solid lockup. Yeah, let me just check the lockup on my Para 3. It did have a little bit of blade play, which I got out when I kind of fixed it because I bent that compression lock just a little bit. And so overall, the Sage 5 Lightweight just kind of kills it with fit and finish and lockup. And that's truthfully because they have full metal liners and they have two washers around the pivot, just basically like a normal knife. And I don't really understand Spyderco's thoughts on this Para 3, because not having one washer and then having just one little metal sliver for the compression lock only saved 0.3 ounces. And I do feel like that missing washer is just kind of a design flaw and something that is completely unnecessary. So for the ergonomics between these two knives, this is also another example where the Sage 5 wins. And as you heard in the beginning, I had to sand down these internal liners, I guess, or just plastic, with a ceramic rod. The reason I didn't use a Dremel or sandpaper is obviously because you can melt this injection mold, and so you obviously don't want to do that. But I did knock that down, and so it feels a lot better right here. But originally from the factory, if I like bared down like this, it created an entire hotspot over all of my fingers. And that's one of those things where I never want to suggest someone to have to mod out a knife as soon as they buy it. I just feel like an issue like that is a quality control issue, and not just like, oh yeah, there's a void in the carbon fiber or something like that. It's just a blatant issue with these FRN scales from Golden, Colorado. But the FRN from Taichung is a lot better. It's not as grippy. It just feels a little bit, I guess, smoother in your hand, actually. Both of this FRN is good, and I actually do like FRN if you can't tell. So I'll just call it a tie. I kind of like the honeycomb kind of texture pattern a little bit more on the Sage 5. But one thing that is a lot better on the Sage 5 is that there is no excessive thumb ramp right here. What this does is if I have to hold it right here, my thumb is not very locked up, because a little bit of it can reach over that thumb ramp and just sit right there. If I want to choke up a little bit more, I can be comfortable in holding it like this. And so I think that is a huge advantage for the Sage 5. And also when holding it back here, you are a little bit farther from the blade than you are on the Para 3, but it still is very useful, and I can get all 4 fingers on the knife when I hold it back there. For the Para 3 Lightweight, you see this thumb ramp. That is a huge thumb ramp, and if I put my thumb on there, I mean, I guess I can do it like this, but that truthfully isn't comfortable. If I lock my thumb all the way back, that is pushed back a lot farther than my thumb on the Sage 5, and really the only comfortable spot for my thumb is right here. But this grip for cutting is pretty much useless unless you're cutting like tape on a package, just something not that thick at all. Because let's say you're cutting cardboard like this, that cardboard is just going to go right over your thumb, and your thumb is going to be like a stock thickness of like half an inch. And so it's one of those things where this grip is not very useful, and this grip would be nice, but truthfully, because of this huge incline on the thumb ramp and then just the slider decline, it's just not as comfortable to hold in my hand. And like I said, it's not very comfortable to hold here, and from the factory it wasn't comfortable to hold here. So for the Sage 5 Lightweight, it kind of just destroys the Para 3 Lightweight when you're talking about ergonomics. So the next one, the carry of these two knives, it is very similar to each other. The Sage 5 Lightweight has a little bit of a better carry profile in the pocket, but you know, I'll give it to the Para 3 Lightweight because it does carry deeper and it is a little bit lighter. Now that is just not really a difference at all. You're honestly not going to notice this. And they both carry very well. They are both very light. They slide in and out of the pocket very nicely. Comparing the tension on these wire clips, I need to use my pointer finger for this. There's the one on the Para 3. The tension is a little bit tighter on the Sage 5. It sounded a little bit weaker, but that's just because I couldn't pull it as back, or I couldn't pull it as far back as I did with the Para 3. But overall, the Para 3 probably carries better. You know, if you are someone who has a whole lot of stuff in your pocket, Sage 5 Lightweight probably has a little bit better of a carry profile. Yeah, just a tiny bit better. You can see that little thumb ramp sticking out just a little bit at the end. So overall, carry on these is both good, but I'll give it to the Para 3 because I feel like it deserves something for having to be so light and sacrifice so many things. So next, for the action, and this is for the Sage 5, this one goes to the Sage 5 again. You know, action isn't one of those things that I care about all that much, but it flicks out nicely and it will drop shut. And this compression lock is the best compression lock I've ever had from Taichung. I know they've had their struggles with like detents and stuff, but this is very nicely tuned. And I don't really fidget with my knives that much, but I've actually found myself playing with this one a decent amount. This action is not bad. I can Spidey flick it. I can thumb roll it. I can also thumb flick it. It just it doesn't drop shut as much as the Sage 5. So personally, for my uses, these actions are both good, but the Sage 5 for everyone, or for a lot of other people, they're going to prefer that drop shut action on the compression lock. The last one for value, Para 3 Lightweight sits right under $100. I think it might be like 98 bucks. Sage 5 Lightweight is $120. Now you might expect me to say, you know, Para 3 wins because it's cheaper, but this is one of those situations where I think the Sage 5 Lightweight wins just because of the construction, the thinness behind the edge, and the ergonomics. And so yeah, overall, the winner of this Battle of the Blades is going to be the Sage 5 Lightweight. And the categories that it won that are the most important to me are the very big ones. It won the blade, basically just the construction, and the ergonomics and the action, which isn't that important. But just winning the blade and the ergonomics for me would make this knife win, because those are the two things I care about, because that really determines the actual performance of your knife. Also the lockup, which I expect every single production knife to lock up fine. So it's one of those things where if it cuts really good, which as you saw, it's like 16 thousandths behind the edge and it is very comfortable in hand, it is just going to perform very well. Oh shoot, I forgot to mention one thing about the Sage 5 Lightweight's ergonomics. There is a hotspot with this compression lock. And so, but the thing is, because there are so many issues with the Para 3 Lightweight's ergonomics, Sage 5 Lightweight still wins. But if you're holding your knife like this, and then you're like cutting some very thick, just abrasive stuff, like I tried to just cut like 3 or 4 layers of cardboard all together. I was pressing down really hard and it just made a really bad hot spot in my hand. And you might be like, oh, well, that is a bad thing. And yes, it is a bad thing. But one thing that I do like about this ergonomics is this pinch grip right here. And truthfully, this is what I use the most, because if I'm not going to go out of my way to cut 3 layers of cardboard, I'll probably just cut either 2 layers of cardboard at a time or just 1 layer of cardboard at a time. So it's one of those things where the Sage 5 Lightweight wins in ergonomics, and it just wins in all the important categories to me. And I would truthfully suggest going with the Sage 5 Lightweight over the Para 3 Lightweight. So that's going to do it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. I really like this Battle of the Blades because I feel like it's just, these knives are so similar. I mean, they're within $30 of each other. They have pretty much the exact same blade length, both made from Spyderco. I both have a ton of use on these knives. This is probably one of my most used knives in my collection. And this Sage 5 lightweight is definitely gonna be one of my most. I've had it for like 3 weeks, carried it almost every day, and it's just been a great user. So that's gonna do it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you agreed with me, I don't know what you should do, just comment it. If you disagreed with me, please leave that in the comments. I'd love to talk with you and just basically tell you my opinion on things. So that's gonna do it for the video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.